celebrating 48 years on the air. Award-winning Farm Week is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, disaster payments are set. Billions about to be sent to farmers in need. Plus, Rolling Fork rising in Mississippi. How is that tornado recovery coming along? In Southern Gardening, Eddie's got the DIY on raising citrus in containers. And in our feature this week, this year's DIXIE National, we got them gumming and going. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. The USDA has opened up enrollment for payments to farmers impacted by bad weather last season, known as Emergency Commodity Assistance Program Payments, or ECAP. Peter Tubbs has the details.
America's farmers will soon have access to relief funds for weather-related disaster losses. The U.S. Department of Agriculture announced that it will begin accepting applications for $10 billion in direct financial relief for crop losses sustained by extreme weather events during the 2024 crop year. The funds are the first tranche of $30 billion assigned by the last Congress and signed into law by President Biden in December of 2024. Roughly 80% of the relief funds are expected to go to corn, soybean, and wheat producers, but producers of 20 different crops are covered. Producers who submitted acreage reports to FSA for the 2024 crop year are eligible for relief. Producers who did not file a report for 2024 have until August 15th of 2025 to submit their form to qualify for cash relief. Payouts are estimated to run $43 per acre for corn, $30 per acre for soybeans, $31 per acre for wheat, and $84 per acre for cotton. The USDA has predicted improved farm profitability in 2025.
A few years ago, massive tornadoes ripped through north-central Mississippi, much like what we experienced a couple of weeks ago. Many communities were devastated, but the story of one in particular captivated the nation: Rolling Fork. The suffering in this rural Delta town turned into a rallying cry across the state and the nation, as many, including MSU Extension, chipped in to help rebuild. Now, 2 years later, Farm Week returns to Rolling Fork for a quick look after the storm.
Turn left on
2 years ago, a massive tornado nearly wiped out the small Delta town of Rolling Fork, Mississippi. It was big news around the country for a few weeks and also showcased the resilience of those who live there.
The March 23 tornado was a terrible blow. The good news is that the private sector has bounced back to where we're about in the 90 percentile of where we were. It's all of the government facilities that are not being forthcoming and not building back and not doing the things that they're supposed to do. Rolling Fork Rising is a local group, and they built about 10 houses, and then the Mennonites have come in and they built a number of houses, and the lion's share of all the houses have been built by the people that own the house, and they all had insurance and they built it back.
Speaking of Rolling Fork Rising, that organization was created in the aftermath of the tornado and has been going strong ever since, helping those who lost everything.
So Rolling Fork Rising is a nonprofit set up after the storm that targets renters, and I think over 70% of Rolling Fork population is renters. So they don't give the renters the homes, but basically they have a really good deal on financing, and the price that they pay is super low. That would be less than that of paying rent. And so if you're a landlord and your property was wiped out in Rolling Fork, with the price it costs to rebuild, it's not feasible for those guys to rebuild. And so the renters basically had nowhere to go. And so Rolling Fork Rising was set up to help the renters of the town. And it's been a really good organization. Well, I think their target right now is to build 17 homes. What that will do is bring generational wealth versus paying rent. Now these people will own a home. They will be able to pass it down to their children. It gives them a reason to move back to Rolling Fork and stay in the community.
So, 2 years later, Rolling Fork still shows signs of the devastation. Its city hall still stands empty and unrepaired, but that's due to it being on the National Registry of Historic Sites, which means specialists are required to make those repairs. The ag industry has bounced back, along with other businesses, and it seems hope can still be found in this community.
Here at MSU Extension, we wear a lot of hats in search of ways to help people of this state. One of those, and perhaps the most important, is research, finding ways to help farmers grow their crops more successfully. Here's Bella Bingham with an example.
Among the many challenges faced by farmers is disease, and one in particular has been an issue in Mississippi for quite some time. Iron deficiency chlorosis, a disorder caused by iron deficiency in the plant that can result in yield loss within affected areas of a field. IDC is not caused by a lack of iron in the soil, but by an inability of the plant to take it up. Dr. Mary Love Taggart of Mississippi State Extension has an ongoing project to find solutions to the problem. Phase 1 of the project was a plot scale study within fields where IDC has been detected, which explored different seeding rates, the number of seeds planted to establish a healthy crop stand. Rotating the crop with corn was also explored because beans and corn are commonly known to work well together using that system. The results showed that a lower seeding rate of 120,000 seeds per acre performed worse compared to a higher seeding rate, upwards of 160,000 seeds per acre. However, bringing corn into the mix showed that not only did the soybean crops yield more after rotation, but IDC-affected areas planted with bean varieties with low tolerance for IDC performed as well as tolerant bean varieties. Now the project has moved on to Phase 2, which will be taking these results and applying them further. Once the project is over, we'll provide an update.
On the lighter side, you might be surprised to learn that under certain conditions, citrus can grow pretty well here in Mississippi. In our Southern Gardening segment this week, here's Eddie Smith with more about container citrus.
Growing citrus in the South can be a rewarding experience, especially in warmer climates like USDA Zones 8 through 11. Cold-hardy options such as satsuma and kumquats can be planted in the ground in southern counties of Mississippi, and many varieties can be grown in containers throughout the South. Selecting the right citrus variety is important, with dwarf or semi-dwarf trees being the best suited for container growth. The improved Meyer lemon is a popular citrus variety. This variety is ideal for home gardeners, especially in the South, as it can be grown successfully in containers. It prefers full sun, needing at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight per day. Improved Meyer lemon can produce flowers multiple times a year, leading to fruit at different stages of development. The blooms have a delicate waxy appearance, with 5 petals surrounding a bright center filled with pollen-rich stamens. Their beauty, fragrance, and role in fruit production make citrus blooms a cherished highlight of growing these trees. For more information on growing citrus in containers, check out our website at extension.msstate.edu. I'm Eddie Smith, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a short break right here, but stick around. Coming up at long last, this year's DIXIE National Sale of Junior Champions. It's a big story, and this year the numbers were bigger than ever, more than $500,000 raised in the sale. You'll also meet a hard-working young lady bound for greatness. And to top it all off, say goodbye to auctioneer Jackie Corson, retiring after 30 years of helping youth raise millions of dollars. The 2025 DIXIE National coming up.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations, and their faith. I believe in my own work, and in the opportunity I have to make my life useful to humanity. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families that I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership. I believe that these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance towards the views of others. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Time for the market report, a focus on livestock this week.
A lot of good reasons for that. We got some updates from the USDA, and we speak to an expert about it. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then this month's cattle on feed, livestock slaughter, and chicken and eggs reports released by the USDA. What did they have to say? And finally, we speak with MSU Extension economist Dr. Josh Maples about the impact of these reports and what's truly moving the markets. So, markets closed the week still in the green, livestock up while row crops split. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, lean hogs, up nearly 11 cents, more than a 12.5% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, cotton, down over 2 cents, nearly 3% decrease from the previous week. So, several USDA reports released recently, the cattle on feed, livestock slaughter, and chicken and eggs reports. As you saw, lean hog futures way up. That's a trend with most livestock. Once again, Bella Bingham gives the details.
This month's cattle on feed report says national inventory down 2% from March last year. That amounts to about 11.5 million head. Placements in feedlots dropped more dramatically by 18%. That amounts to about 1.5 million head. The livestock slaughter report also bearish on the percentages, but positive on the weights. All commercial red meat production down 7% from last year. How does that break up? Beef production down 7%, cattle slaughter down 11%, while live weights up 48 pounds. Veal production down 43%, pork production and hog slaughter down 7%, while live weights up 1 pound from a year ago. Lamb and mutton production down 3% and sheep slaughter down 2%, while live weight down 1 pound from a year ago. The chicken and eggs report shows a slow rebuild from bird flu. Egg production down 9%, while layers in the U.S. down 8% compared to a year ago. Egg-type chicks, as in those who will be primarily egg layers, up 2%, and eggs and incubators also up 4%. Broiler-type chicks, those who will be primarily grown for meat, down 1% from last year, while eggs and incubators up 2%.
Now you have the context. What do the experts have to say? I spoke with MSU livestock economist Dr. Josh Maples. He says a lot of this information is no big surprise to those who have been following the markets.
The inventory numbers being down was not a surprise. Zach, we've got tighter cattle supplies in general. We've been talking about that for a couple of years. We're starting to see some of that really play out in these cattle on feed numbers. And if you look at the placements numbers, it's really driven by fewer placements. Placements were down 18% compared to February of 2024. So big drop in placements. Some of that was impacted by the fact that we had an extra day in February 2024 because of leap year. Big impact was the dynamics last year. We had winter storms that kind of pushed more placements into February last year. So that does make this year's comparison look a little bigger. Just because we're comparing to a really big number a year ago. But even putting that to the side, the baseline of this is we have fewer calves that have hit the ground last year and the year before that. We've got tighter feeder cattle supplies, and we're starting to see that play out in these cattle on feed numbers. The number one driver of cattle prices is the supply side. You know, we talk all the time about, is it demand that's really kind of pulling things? Is it large supplies? Is it tight supplies? Right now, there is no question it is tight supplies. We have fewer cattle out there. We're gonna have a small calf crop this year compared to, you know, previous years. That is really what's driving these record high cattle prices that we're seeing. This is everything related to the supply side, but also on the trade front as well. You know, the markets don't like uncertainty, and the typical thing that you see in an environment with big uncertainty is you see these wild swings one way and the other. So I don't think it's a fundamental change that affected the market to lead to that couple of day really big rally. I really do think it's the volatility piece of this sector right now, and I think we're going to continue to see some of that in the near term. HPAI is the big story right now. You know, the positive news is egg prices have come down. You look at the latest report and egg prices are lower. Again, egg prices are volatile. You know, that's a market where you can see some pretty wild swings. And so the 285 million layers was what this report said, laying hens. This was down about 9 million from a month ago and down about 28 million from a year ago, so still significant drops. The positive news here, Zach, is that if you look further back in the supply chain at the number of pullets, so these are chicks that are going to go on to become layers, those were up about 7%. And if you look at the eggs in incubators to ultimately become pullets or to become laying hens one day, those were also up. So we do see this industry reacting to these strong prices. We see some signs of larger supplies, but that's back down the supply chain a little bit right now. So tighter hen numbers right now, but we do see some signs of growth in the future.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Due to lower herd size all around, not to mention ongoing bird flu, looks like the livestock markets will continue to stay fairly bullish. Mike?
Thanks, Zach. And now the 2025 Dixie National Sale of Junior Champions, always a big hit. We say goodbye to one of the nicest people I've ever met, Jackie Corson, the sales auctioneer for 3 decades. He's now retired. And we meet a young lady really going places. Here's a look back at this year's Dixie National. This was the 56th year of the Dixie National Sale of Junior Champions, a highlight event that culminates a week of intense livestock activity for the 1,269 youth in 4-H and FFA who showed nearly 2,000 animals. And after 60 years total, it's the largest livestock show in rodeo east of the Mississippi River. At a press conference before today's coveted sale, Mississippi's Ag Commissioner Andy Gibson is proud of all those youth and describes their work as the best workforce development program in the state.
Mississippi. We don't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to workforce development. If you want to find the young people who are hard workers and committed to Mississippi and committed to developing their life and their career here in our state and their education, you walk inside here and see these young people, you get to meet some of them today.
Angus Catshot is the new director of Mississippi State University Extension, which does a huge amount of legwork for the event. He's proud of the kids, too.
This is a tremendous opportunity for all of our 4-H'ers and FFA youth across the state to be able to come together and promote our livestock shows. But it's more than that. One of the things that it does, just the experience of owning an animal where you're responsible for their care, their health, their growth. It just instills positive attitudes in our youth.
And with those words and the presenting of scholarships to young people that now total more than $1.2 million since 1993, we're off and running.
Let's go.
17-year-old Leighton Varner, a senior from Rankin County 4-H, has been waiting for this day. It's her last time showing livestock. After 9 years, she'll be moving on soon, headed to Mississippi State to major in agribusiness. She's worked hard to get here again, though, getting up early every day, feeding her animals and working with them, then heading off to high school. Later each day, she handles her animals again in between doing homework and other chores. It's a long day, and she, like most of these youth, has to drive herself pretty hard.
There's so much I've learned. I mean, just from work ethic to how to win and lose. I mean, there's just so many things. And I mean, obviously you learn so much responsibility doing it because you're having to have these animals that rely on you. And if you don't show up, if you don't show up to feed them, if you don't show up to work them, then I mean, it's not going to go well because they're just completely reliant on you. And I think that's so interesting because, you know, in the world today, you need to learn that responsibility and learn how to be dependent and how to be reliable and everything. It's kind of made me work hard in everything I do in a way because with this, I've realized that whenever I do work hard, it always pays off in the end. And I mean, I know there's some shows it doesn't, but in some form, way or another, it's gonna pay off. Whether that's me making it to the sale or not, it always does. And so in life, it's, you know, made me realize that everything pays off if I work hard enough.
Layton still has plenty of hard work ahead of her, needless to say, with college. She says she also hopes to go to law school someday and then perhaps even cultivate a career in politics. In the meantime, though, she wants to be around her family as much as possible. We wish her well. Obviously, you can't have an auction without an auctioneer. And Jackie Corson is one of the best in the business.
Don't give up now. Come on, one more time.
But after 30 years, Jackie's hanging up his gavel. This is his last Dixie National auction. He says his wife's honey-do list is long and needs his attention.
I've always got a long honey-do list, and I've got a lot of people that's controlling my calendar. So we just love what we do. We have a great partnership. And you know, she's in the art business, and we've got 3 wonderful kids, 7 wonderful grandkids, and we are blessed to be able to see them every week almost and to interact with them. And so that's my reason for living and doing right now is my family.
In the meantime, after helping to generate about $8.5 million in livestock sales over the years, he has mixed feelings about leaving.
I'm sad and I'm glad. I'm sad to leave it because it's such a good program, so many good people that's behind the program, and that makes me sad, but I'm glad because we've got plenty of folks can carry the program on, and the next guy will do better than me. That's my wish.
Jackie gets a lot of respect for everything he's done for the Dixie National, but says there's a bigger picture. For him, it's all about the youth. I told him most people would say he's done a great job over those 30 years, but he says,
well, it's not about me, and I appreciate the compliments, I always do, but it's about the kids. My job's easy. Everybody's done the work before I ever get there, and so it's just fun for me because I know I'm doing something for a good cause. It makes it a lot of fun. I make new friends every year, and the beauty of it is that I make friends with the grandkids of my friends when I was a youth, a teenager in the livestock program. Now they are the granddaddies and the grandmamas of the kids that are still in the program. And you know, what better blessing could you have than to see it generation after generation staying in the same program. So yeah, it's been great. It's been a great blessing for me.
Is he nostalgic about leaving? You bet.
I do. I wax nostalgic a lot because I know I've been around long enough to see the changes that's made. The culture has changed, but yet there's still some very steady, right principles in this program, such as work and integrity and commitment and responsibility. So those things will always last in a program like this. And so I think that's why it's good now. It's been good. It'll be good in the future.
And what's Jackie's message to the youth now and in the future?
My message is to respect the past, listen to those leaders, your parents, and the people that's already been in those circumstances and walked in those footsteps and listen to them and learn from them, and you'll be all right. Even when you get out in the world on your own, then more than likely you'll want to be the same way.
And finally, as he rides off into the sunset, is there anything Jackie wants people to know?
Just that I love them, I appreciate them. It's a good program. I always do the right thing and do the good thing. And we'll see you down the road. All done. Thank you very much. Love you all. Voting right there, $10,000.
We'll miss Jackie. Good luck to him and to Leighton Varner. Well, next week, a familiar story, antibiotic use in animals and resistant bacteria. But there's beginning to be an even larger concern about the resistance, and it's not just about farm animals, but about our pets, too.
We head to Minnesota, where veterinarians are a little concerned about resistance and about the closeness of our physical space with animals. Their message: when we're treating your animals, we're treating the whole house.
A warning next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.